Well, there's so much to say about the second round Stanley Cup playoff matchup between the Penguins and the Washington Capitals. But the one word that probably best applies, entertainment. That's exactly what the NHL is looking for from this series. They're going to try to sell it as entertainment to non-hockey fans, because when you have Sidney Crosby, the most marketed player in the National Hockey League, when you've got Alexander Ovechkin, perhaps the most profiled player in the National Hockey League this season and the reigning MVP, and you've got Evgeny Malkin, who may be the best player in this series and who just replaced Ovechkin as the scoring champion and may knock him off from the MVP category later in June. Well, that's a lot for hockey fans to take in. But how is this series going to play out? We're going to look at that right now in the Tribune Review playoff preview for the second round series between the Penguins and the Capitals. First point, the star power, Crosby, Malkin, Ovechkin. One guy to keep a watch on in this series for Washington Capitals is Alexander Semin. If you extract his points per game average to a full season, he gets hurt a lot. Semin would be one of the top 5 scorers in the National Hockey League. Earlier in the year, I asked Sidney Crosby about Semin, and he said he thinks he has the best hands in the NHL. This is a dynamic player, a very sturdy goal scorer. He has a wicked shot, he has great instincts, and he really provides the Capitals with some balance. Whereas before, the Capitals were pretty much Alexander Ovechkin and a band of merry red shirt wearing guys, now they are a strong team with great depth. They're a lot like the Flyers in that they can roll 4 lines. Let's not forget, Sergei Fedorov sometimes alternates between the 4th line center and the number 1 line center. But Alexander Semin, to me, is the key. If Semin's able to get off in this series and get a fast start, the Penguins are going to have a very difficult time matching up with the Capitals, because you know Ovechkin's going to get his opportunities. But if Semin's getting his and they don't play on the same line, it's going to make the Capitals a much more difficult team to defend. Sort of like the way the Penguins are difficult to defend when Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin are rolling as centers on each of their own lines. Now, if the Penguins can prevent Semin from getting hot, it's probably going to fall on a lot of the shoulders of goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury. And I think there's no doubt he is the Penguins' biggest advantage going into this series. Quite frankly, nobody even knows the Washington Capitals goaltender's name because he only started after Game 1. What we do know about him is this. He's 21 years old, and yes, he's got a playoff series victory under his belt, but that was against the New York Rangers, and he's never seen an offense like this. In fact, he's never really seen an offense because the New York Rangers don't ever generate the type of scoring chances over the course of 60 minutes that the Penguins can generate in the course of, say, 10. We're talking Crosby, we're talking Malkin, we're talking Guerin, we're talking Kunitz, we're talking Stahl, we're talking Kennedy. We're talking a lot of guys, and the Rangers didn't have any of them. Penguins do, and how this young goaltender for the Capitals stands up to that sort of trial by fire is going to say a lot for the Capitals' chances in this series. But conversely, we know goaltending is what it is all about in the playoffs, and with Marc-Andre Fleury, I don't know what more people need to say. He has now won 4 of his last 5 playoff series. I thought he was the Penguins' best player against the Philadelphia Flyers. It was his brilliant play in Game 2 that kept the Penguins in the game and allowed them to tie it with a late power play goal by Malkin and win it with a great goal by Guerin in the overtime. And it was his sparkling 45 saves in Game 4 at Philadelphia that gave the Penguins that 3-1 lead, which really proved pivotal because, as we all saw, the Flyers certainly played well in the series after that. Marc-Andre Fleury is a proven netminder in this league. He may be the best big game goalie left in the Eastern Conference. And if you're looking for a clear advantage, it's him. He's played in the Stanley Cup Final. The guy for Washington, he's played in 6 playoff games. Now, let's talk about maybe an unsung hero for the Penguins here, who we can look for. And here's who I think we can look for in this series. Chris Kunitz. He had a great impact early in the Philadelphia Flyers series because, as you saw, he was hitting everybody that moves with the Kunakazis on Kimmo Timonen. But he didn't score a goal in the whole series. Had a couple of nice assists, but he was not on the score sheet. I think he's a good matchup here. The Flyers defensemen are not overly physical. I think he's going to have some room to work with in front of the net. Flyers D guys don't like to really hit. They don't like to move guys away from the crease. And I think the Guerin, Crosby, Kunitz line is going to really be able to get going. And I think the reason is I think Kunitz is going to have a lot of room for movement in front of the net. And I think Guerin's going to be able to get some shots that allow Kunitz to maybe get some rebound opportunities. If Kunitz gets going quickly, this could be a very quick series for the Penguins. And in fact, that's exactly what I'm forecasting for. Look, the Washington Capitals have been a great story. Alexander Ovechkin, he's the darling of the league right now, and they've got a lot of talented guys. I haven't even mentioned defenseman Mike Green, who's probably going to win the Norris Trophy this year as the league's best overall defenseman. But when you come down to it, the Capitals, they've won one playoff series in the past 2 years. They needed to go to Game 7 both times. They lost it at home to Philadelphia last year after falling behind 3-1. And they fell behind 3-1 this year against the New York Rangers despite having home ice advantage. In fact, the Capitals trailed in that series 0-2, losing both games at Verizon Center, where they were a pretty good team all year. The Capitals have never seen anything like the pressure and the media focus that's going to be in this series, especially given the star power. Penguins, come on, they've been to the Stanley Cup final. They're less than 12 months removed from that. They've been here before. To them, this is just another round against another good team that they have to beat for them to get back to the Stanley Cup final. And to me, they have a character advantage in this series. They have an experience advantage in this series. They have a goaltending advantage in this series. And in the bottom line, it comes down to this, and this is why the Penguins will win in 5 games. Ovechkin and Crosby cancel each other out. Who beats Malkin? Well, that's a look at the second round series. For the Tribune Review, I'm Penguins beat writer Rob Rossi.